one, for example,
Oh wait.
Some people think.
but upon close inspection, this newspaper is discussing no
Look, there's a charger right
fire
here.
retardant. They talk about how if you apply no burn to any interior fabric, it will stop a fire from spreading.
Sammy,
Very cool.
plug it in over
So I
here.
went online to research no burn
Staying
and
there.
found the company online. I hadn't heard about them until now,
Where's
but
Leah?
apparently they are indeed a
Where's
company that
Cinco?
specializes in fire retardant. The
It's
newspaper
like
then
that.
talks
You
about
want
someone
to
named
tell?
Petrov and how they are
Yeah,
associated with
yeah,
no burn.
yeah.
They apparently tested no burn on wood at Keen Lumber, a lumber company. I looked up those newsprint paragraphs word for word and found an identical copy of what was written as a no burn PDF. So is it all just full of text?
Can you
I mean,
give me
the same
that
reading
controller?
appears here too. Or is it all something more?
Ask
But
Sammy.
something is very
I'm
strange
dead. I
here.
can't
The
help.
newspaper's name is the Star Gazette, which is a real-life New York newspaper. But what is very bizarre is that the newspaper's date is Saturday, May 16th, 1930. But the problem is, none of these products were around back then. And another problem is that May 16th, 1930 was actually on Friday. But May 17th, 1930 was a Saturday. And on that day, a lot of stuff went down, revolving around the world wars, such as the Young Plan. But more on that in a moment. But before we continue with the newspaper tools, I want to address the coolest thing this film did to promote. They gave the scientist his own Facebook page, and on it, the scientist posted updates of his technological achievements leading up to the movie's release. So cool! And all of his posts revealed even more about the story before the movie. More about the machine, more about the Chancellor, and more about the Stitch. He also talks about the Great World War,
Flesh.
a raging war that lasted 10 years. He discusses over the course of 70 posts the full pre-story timeline of 9. And yes, I read every single
I'm coming
it
for
post like this.
No, Sammy!
Sammy!
He is appointed by a country's chancellor to go through with creating an artificially intelligent BRAIN, or Binary Reactive Artificially Intelligent Neural Circuit. After many posts where he talks about the deadlines and developmental progress, he explains how the chancellor is allowing him to share some of his research to Facebook. So he shares some concept art for his machine. He then begins to talk about how he has dreams of alchemy symbols, but he just dismisses it as something he read. He then touches up his project to show the Chancellor. During this time, he also researches the elemental symbols he envisioned. Those specific symbols were related to intellectual transfer, something perfect for his machine. He wonders why his brain suddenly thought of those symbols right at the time of need, but he yet again dismisses it. Then the Chancellor arrives to check up on the machine's progress. He was furious to find that the machine was not yet working, and he threatened to cut his funding for the project.
Turn it down, please.
The scientist checked alchemy books for more answers. He tried new methods to speed up production, and then, over a week later, the Chancellor meets with him again, this time pleased with the progress. The machine reaches out to shake his hand, and the Chancellor smirks approvingly. The scientist is happy and continues his production. He then constantly posts a link to his laboratory, which is basically just the 9 website. Unfortunately, as of right now, it's inaccessible, and I have to keep using Facebook groups. Anyways, the scientist goes on about how he used to be a toolmaker, and now that he's a scientist, he's actually a bit afraid of what technology can do. At one point, he even leaves his machine alone, and it starts tinkering with little tools to create itself a new limb. The scientist continues production still. The Chancellor starts putting up war propaganda posters all over town, but then an anti-technology group called the Rebels starts defacing the posters, saying things like resist, targeting the Chancellor, the machines, and the scientist. What happened next was protesting riots, arrests, and injuries, as well as a concerned...
I'm just downloading the...
The scientist then completes Brain, and only final testing remains. But then, without any warning, the Chancellor's men storm into the scientist's lab and steal Brain for the Chancellor's own testing. The scientist says that they do not know what they are messing with, but they don't listen. Later, they take the scientist from his lab and confiscate several vital documents. The Chancellor is doing something much bigger and more dangerous than he thinks. Then newspapers and posters go out, advertising the fabrication machine, a machine that will create new machines in its own image. The scientist is now fiercely worried. He then admits that the way he gave the machine artificial intelligence was by using those alchemy symbols to transfer his own intellect into the robot. But the robot isn't meant to feel empathy or logic, so this is all bad news. Protests
Where did
are
she go?
increasing. The scientist is being heavily monitored, and the machine gets some super sweet new upgrades. This is all terrible. Several propaganda posters are being defaced, just as fast as more and more are going up. Then, several machines are suddenly unveiled to the public. Huge, 30-foot tall war beasts.
She's crying because she has to pay to play.
Large posters telling people to fight at war go up. They have 30-foot tall war machines on them with the date September 9, 2009 written on it. I can only assume that that'll be the day of a new war. The vicious chancellor turned dictator is now threatening 4 countries with the machine. These countries are still recovering from the previous 10-year war, and the chancellor sends out deadly gas bombs, killing millions instantly. Propaganda posters are now saying, pay the price for freedom. The machine is being overworked. It is soon going to change its priorities, which would be bad. War machines are now going rogue and accidentally killing their own men. War rages outside, and the scientist gets an idea. He yet again turns to the dark scientist. But he needs his research, which was confiscated by the government. He manages to get it back and begins a new task. Meanwhile, the fabrication machine is prioritizing and begins killing factory workers. The fabrication machine is about to snap, and so the scientist must work fast with his new task. The machine is now killing everybody in the city, and the scientist blames himself, but he shouldn't be. The Chancellor makes a public message, and in it blames everybody but himself. And finally, the scientist successfully alters the device he used to transfer his intelligence, turning it into a little talisman infused with the alchemic symbol. Brain is multiplying his creations, and so the scientist now begins to use the talisman. After intense amounts of work, the scientist uses the talisman to take a portion of his soul and infuse it into a tiny doll. He calls it Rod. He worries that his old body won't be able to take such tasks as soul sucking, but he continues. As thousands and millions of more people are being killed, the scientist develops 8 more dolls, talks about how they act on Facebook, and sets them all out into the world. He then uses all he has left and infuses it into one final night. Then the movie begins. Well, that right there should have been a movie. Those 70 Facebook posts were amazing. And only a few months ago, the profile pic updated. The first activity on the Facebook page in years. Does this mean a possible sequel? Maybe. But for now, I need to know, when and where does this all take place? We can accurately assume.
That's one of those jobs that seems made up. I make fake limbs for animals of any breed. Turtle, deer, goat, sheep, llama. You name it, I've done it. You know, there's not many people that do what I do, and sometimes it's a lot on my shoulders.
You're looking at one of 3 baby pit bulls to be found near some railroad tracks.
I got this call about
That the Great World War they are referring to is World War I, if the movie does take place in 1930. But in this universe, World War I lasted 10 years. Then, beginning in 1930, was the age of the machine. If these newspaper dates aren't filler, then this film takes place in 1930. However, the propaganda posters advertised 999, and the scientist's Facebook page posts were directly posted on specific dates. So does it take place in 1930 or 2009?
Nice of that to
Let's
be
come
there.
back to
I
that in
can
a
just
moment.
fast
So
travel.
let's start with where. Now this part was fun. If your kind of fun is hours of historical research, the frustration. Let's do this for 2009 and 1930. If we look at the countries that are European dictatorships in both eras, our list of possible countries are as follows. If it takes place in 2009, it could be Belarus. That's it. As far as I know, and as far as my research went, the only European country that still follows dictatorship is Belarus. Belarus has literally been called Europe's last dictatorship by many historians and journalists. So that was easy. But over on the 1930 side, the research becomes more difficult. But I managed. In 1930, Germany, Italy, Spain, Russia, Austria, Greece, Poland, and Portugal were all dictatorships. So there we have it. But it's not enough. We need more narrowing down. Well, we know that the country has a chancellor. So what countries had chancellors? Well, here the most excellent thing happens. Belarus never had a chancellor in 2009. And this downright eliminates 2009, proving that it has to be 1930. And applying the chancellor back to these countries, we narrow the heck out of this. Spain, Russia, Portugal, and Greece never had chancellors, and Italy and Poland never had this kind of chancellor. We are left with Germany and Austria, two 1930 European accented dictatorship chancellor countries. And look at this. Wikipedia even agrees with my chancellor analysis, but we're still left with a tricky decision. Fortunately, I have something to break the tie. In the 30s,
Yay, I go mining
they
today.
were a big deal. And look up anything to do with chancellors in Germany is like the first thing. And so we have a solid answer. 9 takes place in Germany in the 1930s. All of the Hitler symbolism makes sense. This chancellor is so similar to Hitler. Goal to take over the world, backfiring plans, obscene amounts of propaganda, perfect timing, defining symbols, etc. Now, remember, this guy is not Hitler. But what I am saying is that this film is either symbolizing Hitler or is showing an alternate route for World War I. A route where the war lasted 10 years, the world is poor, machines take over, and only dolls remain. And what was it I mentioned before? The Young Plan. It was a plan that went into effect on May 17, 1930. That was for settling German reparations debts after World War I. All of the time is there. This government is getting lots of funding for science, something this plan would allow. And that's that. What I want to do now is answer a pretty big question. Why does this machine want to kill all of the Stitch Punks? Well, actually, it doesn't want to kill them. Notice how all of the machine's creations go out to capture the Stitch Punks, to bring them to the machine. They don't ever actually kill them. Look at the seamstress. It kneels before the fabrication machine with its prize, so that the machine can soul it. The machine first wakes up when it sucks up Two's soul, so it puffs out it needs the soul for good. That's why it wants the dolls. They are the scientist's soul. He is the scientist's brain. When 9 sucks all of the Stitch Punks out of this fabrication machine, it blows up and dies. It needs a soul to live. I guess if you really think about it, technically, if the fabrication machine has the scientist's intellect and his fully recombined soul, he would be the scientist. And that's a huge revelation. 9 was whatever was left of this guy's soul, or in other words, the rest of him. A lot of him. Everything else the scientist. And so, if this machine got a hold of 9, it would all be over. As 9 has the most soul. 2 talks about the extraordinary amount of thought that went into 9's design. After all, this was design. So that's pretty cool, but I do want to bring up another point. I tried doing something very tedious, but didn't get too far. I tried translating this book and all of the alchemy symbols inside it. And looking at it, there was just too much to do. And some of the symbols weren't even real, so it was just a pointless quest. I'm sure I could learn much, much more about this if I could just read it. But for now, I'm stuck. Maybe in the future I will return to translating it once more. And that was all I figured out. The date, place, motives, connections, and experience. Now here is the full story start to finish. Okay, here we go. A 1900s German toy maker is unsatisfied with his job and wants to apply his knowledge to bigger and better things. He quits his job to pursue science. During his time as a scientist, a 10-year-long world war rages, making all countries poor afterwards. Slowly, the world recovers, with Germany in the lead. Later, as a scientist, the man tinkers with machinery and even artificial intelligence. He begins to create an AI machine. In 1930, Germany's vicious, war-crazy chancellor punished his work for receiving benefits in return. The young plan but the chancellor gets impatient and angry. To speed up progress, the scientist uses alchemy witchcraft to transfer his knowledge into the machine. The chancellor is pleased and confiscates his work for his cruel murder. He forces the robot to build machines of war, and he then uses them to get revenge on the very poor countries in a similar way that Hitler retaliated. Unaware of the catastrophic repercussions of AI, the chancellor continued until the machine snapped. It began destroying everyone alive with deadly gas until only the scientist remained. To keep life going, he resorts to the dark arts one final time to split up the soul into 9 stitched couples. He lets them all go and dies. All that remains in the entire world are the 9 stitched couples in one final program. The fabrication machine has powered off, most likely from being overworked. But accidentally, the most soulful stitch pump enabled the machine to suck a soul and to live once again. After losing many stitch pumps, they defeat the machine with its own talisman, and they set the soul's lives upon the world, bringing back life once again. Isn't that amazing? I really hope so. I hope I didn't go too fast, but it's pretty difficult sometimes. Let's see what we have accomplished today. I figured out
Why did I get a crab?
this mysterious movie takes place. I figured out the truth about
Guys,
what
we need to
brains
get dressed. We
really
have to go and get
and I
food. We want to
analyzed
get
the
food.
full
You
timeline.
need to turn the stuff off.
I need to leave. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
To cover, but I don't get a break, and I don't need one. So I guess it's now time to resort to intense physics, which is basically my school. See you guys later.
Okay, that's it. I need it. I was streaming, I guess, but I didn't finish my stuff for today. Okay, goodbye.